Okay, good morning everybody. I'd like you to help me today make sure I can get all of the board in focus. So if there's anything missing on the board and somebody out there can't see the bottom of the board, for example this sentence down here, tell me right now please. But today we're looking at a new topic. It's something that I've only just come across very recently. I was doing a class with a student recently and we were doing parts of speech. Hi. We were doing parts of speech and we were analysing the word flat. Now, of course, flat can be an adjective, but flat can also be an adverb. Okay, hi guys, hi Tanya, hi Tanya, an old student of mine, hi Tanya, Tatiana. Can you tell me guys, can you see all of the board? Can you see it from top to bottom? Because it seems to be a little bit different when I look at it on my phone screen. Can you see all of the board? Yeah, excellent. So I came across a new word, and this happens quite a lot in my job. I'm lucky that I have a job where I learn something new almost every day. And so I learnt about flat adverbs. And when I learn a new grammatical term, I find it extremely useful, partly because I'm a grammar teacher, but partly because new vocabulary, new words, they help us to find some kind of order in the chaos that is any kind of language. There's obviously a lot of chaos in language, a lot of irregularity, a lot of exceptions to the rules. And understanding flat adverbs, or as they're also called bare adverbs, will help you make sense of this chaos that exists in any kind of language, including English. So what is a flat adverb? Well, a flat adverb is an adverb that has exactly the same form as the adjective. So flat would be a good example because flat can be an adjective or it can be an adverb. And there are a number of these words in English. There are lots and lots of these words in English. And this actually comes from a long, long time ago. Hundreds and hundreds of years ago, we started using adjectives in exactly the same way as we use adverbs. In other words, we say something like, you did good. Now, this is really common in informal speech. In informal speech, people will often say something like that. Now, of course, technically, grammatical guides and publishing houses and people that analyse the English language, they would like to see you did well. The same with he speaks English well and not he speaks English good. So they would like you to use the adverb well and the adjective good, the word good only as an adjective. But really, a long, long time ago, we started using our adjectives in the same way as adverbs, and that's why we still have a lot of flat adverbs. In other words, we have a lot of adjectives that can also function as an adverb in exactly the same form. So you have a word like fast, and fast can be an adjective or an adverb, right? You can say a fast car, where fast is an adjective describing car. Or you can say he drives fast, where fast is an adverb describing the verb drives. Okay? Same for far. You can say the far north, or you can say he will go far. And here far is describing the noun north, and here far is describing the verb go. Okay, so that shows you that you have these words where they have the same form as adjectives and adverbs. Okay, and do remember that adverbs can modify whole sentences, in which case we call them sentence adverbs or sentential adverbs, or they modify adjectives, adverbs or verbs. And remember, modify just means describe. That's all it means. So they could describe an adjective, an adverb or a verb. So the easiest ones to talk about are the flat adverbs with no ly form. You can't say fastly, you can't say farly, and there aren't that many of these that I can think of, if I'm honest. But also the irregular comparatives. Best can be an adverb, better can be an adverb, and we're going to look at those down here when we do comparatives and superlatives. Okay, so we will come back to that one. But now I want to talk about something quite a little bit different. So it describes the word go because it describes where you go. Yeah, where do you go? You go far. So far here is an adverb. Just like he went quickly, he went slowly, he went happily. Yeah, notice that you say he went adverb, he went adverb, he went far. Yeah, and he went near. So near is a flat adverb. Near, nearly, and we'll look at near in a second. But there's two types. There are three types of flat adverbs. There's flat adverbs with no ly form, but there's also flat adverbs with an ly form, like near, nearly. Yeah. No, far is not the object of the verb go. Definitely not, because far is not a thing, and objects must be things. They must be nouns. Objects are nouns. Subjects are nouns. Far is not a noun. So far is not the object of go. The object of go is where you go to. He went to the shop. He went to the church. He went home. Yeah, something like that. It's got to be a thing for it to be an object. Okay, so there are also flat adverbs with an ly form, like near, nearly, or right, rightly. And I want to just talk about these for the moment rather than analyze that particular sentence. We're going to go on to some firstly, the adverbs with little difference in meaning between the quickly, slowly, sharply, bright, brightly, deep, deeply. There's very little difference between these ones. Now, most people who've learned a little bit of grammar will probably try to use the ly form when it's being used as an adverb and no ly form when it's being used as an adjective. But they're only doing that because they've learned a bit of grammar, okay? They're not doing it for any other reason. They're maybe not doing it for a good reason. But that the way that these words have been used for hundreds and hundreds of years, these words have been used as adverbs without the ly form. And that means that English people, native speakers, will not see anything wrong with that sentence. Even though foreign speakers, TEFL students might look at that sentence and think, surely it's burning brightly. Yeah, tiger, tiger, burning brightly. This is actually from a very famous poem by William Blake. And there's nothing wrong with saying the fire burned bright. You can say the fire burned brightly, but there's no difference in meaning. The same with the star. The stars were shining bright. There's nothing wrong with that to an English speaker. English speakers will think that sounds perfectly reasonable. And for hundreds of years, we've been using bright as an adverb, even though brightly exists as a word. So you can say the stars were shining brightly, or you can say the stars were shining bright. There's no difference in meaning. This is a very famous one. Now, go slow. A lot of people in the modern world, I'm not sure where, I think it was in the United States, decided that this was incorrect. It should be go slowly. Yeah, it shouldn't. It could never be go slow. And so it actually can be go slow because we've been using slow as an adverb for hundreds and hundreds of years. So again, that doesn't actually sound too bad to a lot of native speakers. To a grammar teacher, it may sound bad, and it's only because the grammar teacher has learned that there exists slowly, and they know full well that ly words are adverbs, and so they insist on go slowly. But really, we've been using slow as an adverb for a long, long time. So go slow, go slowly, both of them sound okay. The same with breathe deep, breathe deeply. Both of them sound okay, but with no difference in meaning. Now, one which has been bothering me for years is wrong and wrongly. He answered the question wrong, he answered the question wrongly. Both sound fine to me. And that's been bothering me for a long time. Why do both sound fine? Well, I've finally got the answer. Flat adverbs. Wrong is a flat adverb. You can use it as an adjective, the wrong answer, or you can use it as an adverb. He answered wrong. So you will see these flat adverbs, and I will take questions at the end, guys, but this is new grammar for me. It's quite complicated, so I'm just going to focus on explaining it first, and then I'll answer your questions. So do stay till the end and ask those questions at the end. So yeah, firstly, wrong has been bothering me for a long time, but you can use either. If you want to err on the side of caution, if you want to be sure, absolutely certain that you're correct, I would say he answered wrongly, just because the ly form is the accepted adverb form and grammarians might not like. He answered wrong. But really they're perhaps not, they're not correct in doing so, because this has been used as an adverb for such a long time. Okay, so you've got all of these with little difference in meaning: wrong, quick, slow, sharp, bright, deep, tight. Now that doesn't mean that it always sounds okay. You know, I would say if you said he ran quick, most people would hear that as a mistake, and he ran quickly sounds a little nicer. So please do use the ly forms if you're unsure. That would make more sense. But do be prepared, be ready to hear the adjectives being used as adverbs, and it's because they have been for hundreds of years. Now some adverbs, some ly forms, have a very different meaning as an adverb than the adjective form being used as an adverb. So hard is very different from hardly. They're both adverbs. He worked hard, he hardly worked. You should, if you're a native speaker, you'll hear that he worked hard is completely different from he hardly worked. They're almost like opposites, because he worked hard means he worked really hard, he was doing his best to get whatever it was done, and he hardly worked means he was being incredibly lazy, he barely worked, he hardly worked, he didn't work at all. You know, he did very, very, very little work. So hardly is incredibly different from hard. Now right and rightly are very, very different as well. Right usually means correctly. If you do something, well, it can mean correctly, and then it's quite similar to rightly, but it can also mean something very different. If you say he drove right off the road, then you're saying to the furthest extent. Yeah, right can mean to the furthest extent. So he drove right off the road, or he went right out of the room. Yeah, something like that. Right out of the room, it means completely out of the room. Okay, so he went right out of the room. But if you want to say that somebody correctly does something, you can say he rightly points out that, he correctly points out that. It's rare nowadays that we'd say he right points out that, but in Old English you can find it, you can see it. And he was, maybe this guy is a criminal, he was rightly convicted of murder. And that's how rightly is usually used nowadays, meaning morally right. It was correct that this happened morally. So morally right is what the way rightly is very often used nowadays. So he was rightly convicted of murder, something like that, and it was the right thing to do. Okay, so right and rightly differ, hard and hardly differ. Near and nearly differ. Yeah, he lives near. You might hear it said sometimes, he lives near. He lives near to me, something like that. But nearly means almost. I nearly died. Yeah, something like that. I almost died. But you wouldn't say I near died. So near and nearly, they're both adverbs, but very different meanings. Flat and flatly as well. Very different meanings. Now, the word that my student and I were looking at was, or the sentence was, he threw himself flat on the floor. And we were we were just looking at the word flat and deciding, is it an adjective or an adverb? And of course, it's describing how he threw himself on the floor. So it's describing the verb, so it's an adverb. So that's flat being used as an adverb. However, flatly can also be an adverb, but it's used differently. You can say he flatly refused, he flatly denied, he flatly rejected, he flatly opposed. And that means if you flatly refuse, you do it definitely and with no chance of changing your mind in the future. It's to stubbornly refuse. Flatly refuse, it's like stubbornly refused, really. And if you flatly deny, you make it 100% clear that you completely deny that. You flatly deny it and you're not going to change your mind. Okay, so you can flatly refuse, flatly deny something, but you can also say something flatly, and then that means with no emotion, with no passion. And so you can speak flatly, you can say something flatly, and then flatly is describing the verb speak, so it's still an adverb, but it's very different from to throw yourself flat on the floor, something like that. So this one, the flat, is usually relating to position. It's describing the verb. You throw yourself flat on the floor. It means the position of the throwing. You threw yourself to a flat position. Okay, but flatly is very different. It's more like definite, like certainly, 100%, and I'm not changing my mind, or emotionless, without emotions. And even something like high and highly, they're both adverbs, but so you can talk about something growing high or building a building really high, something like that, and then it's describing the verb. But if you say he is highly thought of or something like that, or I highly recommend, this is in my adverb collocations video, it collocates well with recommend, I highly recommend that restaurant, then highly is very different from high, and you wouldn't say I high recommend, it's I highly recommend. So some of these adverbs have a very different meaning in the flat adverb form and the ly form. Okay, I hope that's clear. But now I just want to talk about first and firstly and secondly. These are really good examples of flat adverbs, and they're really good examples of ones with no difference in meaning, because loads of times now you just see somebody write first, comma, and then the main clause, yeah, then their main sentence. And as a grammar teacher, I'm tempted to say, surely it should be firstly. Yeah, that's the ly form. Surely it's an adverb we're using here. And it is. But both are acceptable. And for hundreds of years, actually, we've been using both. It was only in the 18th century when grammarians insisted that the ly form ought to be used and the flat form really ought to be the adjective. But perhaps they weren't correct, because it's been around for hundreds of years. So loads of people will write first, comma, blah, 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 second, comma, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you can use either of these, but if you're writing an academic essay, I definitely use the ly forms. They sound more academic, they sound more formal, they sound more grammatically correct. So do be aware of that. There's one more thing I want to mention, and then please do write your questions down, because I do want to answer your questions, but I can't do it at the same time as explaining this. So in the 1960s, grammarians or somebody interested in language, linguistic professors, I'm not sure who, but they did an experiment. They wanted to see if people still recognised flat adverbs as correct, or if they recognised them as being incorrect. So they gave them a sentence: he drives quicker than you do, or he drives more quickly than you do. And most people, me included nowadays, recognise that this one is better, that this one sounds more grammatically correct. He drives more quickly than you do. However, if I'm being honest, and if you listen to me carefully, you might notice that I'll often say the top form, and perhaps more often than the bottom form. He drives quicker than you do. So we're using quicker here as an adverb, even though it does have an ly form, more quickly. Yeah. So that's something to be aware of as well. And it was just interesting that nowadays even more people see the top form as totally acceptable. And so a lot of these flat adverbs, perhaps expressions like this, you did good, they're really common. Perhaps a lot of these flat adverbs are coming back and they're becoming accepted. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I do know it's worth knowing about. So always treat new terminology as a tool that will help you find some order in the chaos of language. So now is a great time to ask questions. I didn't mention best, but basically best is an adjective quite often. Yeah, the best man, the best woman, the best candidate. But it can also be an adverb. So which music do you like best? Yeah, or he is best known for. Clearly an adverb in those sentences. So if you don't have any questions, guys, and you seem to have a lot earlier, always wait till the end. It's the best time to ask questions, but now is the time. Really is a great time now to ask questions. So if you have any, fantastic. If you don't, if you've all gone, if you all left me by the end of the class, I'm afraid I can't answer your questions then. But thanks for watching this video. I hope that comes in handy. I'm sure that you've got a lot of questions there about these things, because they have been bothering me for some time. This, should I say he answered wrongly or he answered wrong? It's been bothering me for ages, but now I've got some clarity on it. Okay, if there's no questions then, guys, thanks everybody for watching. Please give the video a like, please subscribe, and I hope to see you all soon. Okay, we've got a question. Slow only works with motion verbs. He goes slow. There probably are some other verbs though. I mean, have a look at Old English texts and things like that, and I'm sure you'll be able to find some kind of weird use of slow without having any kind of movement or action or anything like that. It's still probably possible. Okay, no questions then. Thanks everybody for watching, and I hope to see you all soon.